Hello and welcome to the Dublin Arsenal preview show. I'm your host, Jonathan Giles. On this week's show, we'll be previewing another massive London derby against Enzo Maresca's informed Chelsea side live on Sky Sports at 4:30 on Sunday. And we'll also be discussing Monday's shock news of the imminent departure of Sporting Director Edu to Premier League side Nottingham Forest and what it all means going forward for the Arsenal. So sit back and enjoy the show. On the show this week, I'm joined by my regular guest, Arsenal season ticket holder, the man that has really exceptional knowledge on the Arsenal, Eamonn. How are you, pal?
Evening, Jonathan. Evening, Gary. I was watching a program there about a man who was living in a car tire. The tire got punctured. He ended up living in a flat.
You just get better by the week.
Thank you. Thank you. Good night. We're all good. Good to see you, Gary.
It's good to be here.
Yes, I'm also joined by avid Chelsea fan Gary Ahern. Yeah. Welcome aboard, Gary. How are you?
Good. Pleasure to be here today.
I'd just like to
Looking forward to the conversation.
Gary's one of our favourite listeners, so very much appreciated, Gary. I think we've got more away fans that listen to us than Arsenal fans.
What happened there was he went to Lochderg, and as a penance, they said, you've got to listen to that show for 12 months, in order to discover yourself.
Well, I've always wanted to say long-time listener, first-time caller, so
yeah.
It's good to be on.
It's great to have you, Gary, and thanks for taking your time out this evening as we're recording this on Friday. We're going to go back towards the shock news from Monday of the imminent departure of our sporting director, which has really come as a shock to myself and all Arsenal fans. I think it'd be fair to say that he's departing for fellow Premier League side Nottingham Forest under Angelos Marinakis. Edu was currently on £3 million per year with the Arsenal, and it looks like he'll double his money. He says he's going for a different challenge. I know there was a great piece written in The Independent by Miguel Delaney, a really good soccer journalist. I don't want to come to you, Eamonn. You read that piece. It was magnificent on Tuesday, I think it was written. What's your take on Edu's imminent departure? Is it a shock, and what does it mean going forward, in your opinion?
Well, it was a shock to me, but I don't work at the club. But the first thing I'd say is that it wasn't a shock to the club. And I think that's pretty clear now, But the first thing I'm going to say is I'm not going to do the king is dead, long live the king. And good night and God bless and all that. I mean, Edu, to my mind, had a very positive impact on the club. He was a charismatic character, and I think his biggest strength was probably espousing the positive image of Arsenal as a club that were on the rise. That's the first thing, right? The second thing, I think he was overall very good for the club at a time when we'd get up off our knees and started moving in a particular direction. I don't think he got all his recruitment right. I wouldn't say he was a recruitment guru. If you look back on the 38 players recruited on his watch, I wouldn't say he was any kind of recruitment guru, and I don't think we're going to miss that element. I think with Edu, it was more the fact that there was a perception of a sense of his belonging to the club, and that he was joining a project that was on the rise. Himself and Mikel Arteta were totally in tandem, and they were singing "Bind Us Together" every time they left the training ground and all that. But we've got to get behind that. The first thing I want to say is, like, the meltdown again on the Dublin Arsenal thread. I mean, it really does. It actually has to stop. It's bad for your own mental health, folks. Like, people who were out, with the greatest of respect, myself included, until I researched it, and I researched it deeply, who know nothing about what goes on the inner sanctum of the club, right? And all of a sudden we were doomed. We were gone. Oh, we can't pay the money, keep them on. Like, sweet Jesus, it's absolutely ridiculous, right? So let's have a look at some real stuff, right? First of all, I want to kill off this notion that this boyhood fantasy notion that football is like Roy of the Rovers, right? And that ex-players and players should have an undying and unswerving loyalty to the club they played for. Football is business, folks, right? With the greatest of respect, Edu was a great player for us, and I think he did a really good job and had a positive influence. But I don't expect him to be welded to the club. And think about this. How could you be welded to any club when sport is the only field I know that a person is treated as a sellable commodity? You tell me, if you're a pop star, you don't get one band saying to another band, I'm going to bid 50 million euro for your lead singer. It doesn't happen that way, right? So when people are tradable commodities, some are traded against their wishes, right? How do you expect this? Oh, well, I played 127, 172 times for the Arsenal, and therefore I should be Arsenal through and through. It doesn't work like that. And anybody who thinks like that, it's fantasy. It's fantasy. It's business, right? My understanding is that he got an offer, not just for more money. He got an offer to move in a different direction. That the project that Nottingham Forest is a multi-club project, and that will be his auspices. But you got to look at also what's happening inside the Arsenal. So my understanding is that he made a move to try and agitate to become the CEO of the club, right? Now, you think about this. He's sporting director. He becomes CEO. That would be as big a loss to us for him as a sporting director to move position. Do you know what I mean? So if all of the angst is because we're losing a great sporting director, had he got the CEO, we would have lost him to that position anyway. So Richard Garlick got the he's a bright bulb, that fella, Richard Garlick. He got the CEO position, and from what I can read, and I've researched this quite a lot, it looks to me like there's a reshuffle there, and the Edu position has kind of run its course, in that Arteta was originally appointed as the head coach. Remember that. He wasn't appointed as the manager. He was appointed as the head coach. Then he was given the manager's job. So in a sense, the arm wrestle for looking after football matters with the men's first team, Arteta has that in his locker. Arteta has total control of that, right? So you'd have to ask then, well, okay, what was the role? In fact, I think, and of course, they brought back James King to oversee bits and bobs, and there's a reshuffle on. The one thing I'm encouraged about, and you've got to look at the owners here, and you've got to see, they weren't always our favourite people, but I think over the last few years, they've stepped up. And the owners were straight in saying, whoever we get, in whatever role it is, will be just as ambitious. Yeah. And we want to win trophies. So I think it's more of I think had we won the last 3 games and Eddie would have gone, I don't think there would have been such a fuss made. I think it's because we're in a bit of a funk at the moment. It was an opportunity for the Sky Sports type of journalism. And I'm not slagging off Sky Sports, but they trade on sensationalism. You know, everything's a crisis, particularly when it's at the Arsenal in crisis, great headlines and all that. I don't see it as such a big deal. I think, unfortunately, the element of the club that will suffer the most in the immediate is the women's team, because they're managerless at the moment, you know. So while we're reshuffling, we've nobody to look after that end of things. But look, I don't see it as. I just think we've got to move on now. I mean, Edu was there. Hats off to him. He's an Arsenal man. Loved him as a player. Loved his positive attitude and image. Loved the charisma that he had. But he's gone. He's a tradable commodity like everybody else. I mean, some of the people who are on meltdown are the first people to say, "Oh, sell Fabio Vieira. Sell him. Well, Fabio Vieira might want to be sold." That's business, you know. Excuse me.
It's a fair point. And the Daily Telegraph Sport done a great piece actually as well on Tuesday, the week it was flown in, on some of his hits and misses, Eamon, just briefly.
Yeah.
They're Edu's hits, which they've pinpointed out. Declan Rice for 105 million, Martin Odegaard for 34 million, Ben White for 50 million, Thomas Partey 45 million, Kai Havertz 65 million, Ricardo Calafiori who looks and will be probably a big top player, 42 million, and Yuri Timber for 38 million.
Yeah.
And then his misses, just briefly, Fabio Vieira for 34 million. I still think there's a player in there, to be honest. Nicolas Pepe, we all know, was a disaster, 72 million, but just didn't work out. And they have Gabriel Jesus for 45 million, which I still think, if he stays injury free, there is a career, a blossoming career at the Arsenal for him, I think. Eamon, would you agree with them hits and misses, briefly from what they've got?
No, I don't think Edu was the guy who identified the players. I mean,
do you agree, Serdy, that Mikel Arteta had a big part to play in the players he wanted there? Yeah,
the scouting department, you know,
you forget
the scouting department identifies the players. The manager, in a well-run club, the manager will have the final call. Yeah, we can go there, right?
Yeah.
And then it was Edu's job to go out and get him. Now, I'm not criticising Edu for not getting Benjamin Sesko or Mikhail Mudryk or any of these people, right? But I'm going back to the meltdown. When he didn't get them, there was meltdown. So now that the meltdown, now that he's gone, should he not be out lighting bonfires, celebrating for Guy Fawkes? Like, I mean, throwing him at the stake, you know. Look, it's a business. He was a very, very functional part of the business. He's gone, but he's highly replaceable.
Yeah. I know Gertie's sitting on the bench there a while, and Chelsea are a club that are really well fond of change over the last few seasons since Abramovich left in 2021. Edu scored, of course, before we came on air, in the invincible seasons at Stamford Bridge when Patrick Vieira and Edu scored in the 2-1 victory. Gertie, your take on Edu's imminent departure, do you think is it something for Arsenal to worry about, or do you think, as Aim says, you're not indispensable and that's just business?
Coming from a club where everybody's replaceable and has been replaced, to be honest with you, with the positions that when you go into the senior positions within the club and there's changes made on that side of things, like, it trickles down as it is to the players, but I don't think it's not going to affect any of the players that Edu's left now. Realistically, I mean, their day-to-day is going to be exactly the same. So it's been the same in Chelsea once we've had somebody like that go, because we had Maria go, we had Abramovich go, we've had pretty much every single manager that's ever been available go.
Michael Lemonado, do you remember him, the big guru? Yeah.
But we've also had people who I thought were committed to the club go, as that star player Mason Mount Man United is doing really, really well. It's people that they just go. You have to appreciate what you have and what you can use and what you can do with that. And I get how the fans react to certain things, thinking that it's the end of the world or it's the best thing since sliced bread. It is what it is. It's business. We support these businesses,
Yeah, and this lad King that will be coming in to replace Edu, they highly regard him, Richard Garlick and co. So it's changed. Look, it's just I suppose, as we were saying on numerous review shows, the last 2 or 3 seasons under this project, we've just been spoiled with how Arsenal have performed, isn't it? And that's why I think it's more of a shock, Yeah.
It is, Jonathan, but let's all remember he was the sporting director. He wasn't the team manager. He wasn't on the training ground. He wasn't in the dressing room. He was none of those things.
Do you think he was held in high regard, Eamon, sorry, because he was an ex-player and he was part of the Invincibles team as well? You know, do you think that's why, you know, he was held in such high regard, and that's understandable?
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course, but I think he did a good job. I'm not dissing Edo. I'm just saying he was part of a business model and he's decided to move on. And some of the stuff last night, why don't we just pay the money that Forest were paying? Jesus. I mean, and then
that's going against our
principles. More money to be available
yeah.
for transfers, you know.
Yeah, like, I do agree with you. You can't just throw everything Arsenal do their bit. You know, we're a responsible club financially, and we don't just go about throwing money just because other clubs, you know, if you start that, then you might as well do it for everyone. Yes, it's a fair point, that, Eamon. Yeah, and as you said yourself, the Forest owner Marinakis, he owns, along with Forest, Olympiacos and Rio Ave in Portugal. So he's trying to buy up a lot of clubs there, and I think that's why Edu wants a different challenge. But look, all you can say is thanks very much, Edu, for what you've done of the project, Arsenal project to date. And look, these things happen in business. And
I spoke to David O'Leary earlier on about this. Right? I spoke to David O'Leary earlier on the phone. And he said to me, he said to me, as I say, at the end of the day, Mikel and Edu, we're a great partnership. Terry Neal and Don Howe were a great partnership. Terry and June were a great partnership. Get on with it. Get on with it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and I think going forward there'll be a lot more talk about this, I suppose, over the next few weeks. But it's all about onwards and upwards. And
for our younger viewers, check out Terry and June. I saw Gary laughing there. Terry and June, sitcom on the BBC, 1970s. You know.
And any fans
any
fans that have listened to this piece on the Edu Imminent Departure, please feel free to comment underneath the video on YouTube. You know, all comments are welcome from
all comments are welcome. But remember, Jonathan, if everybody listened to me, everything will be okay.
And I think Arsenal hopefully are listening to you, because your man King Bear work out. He better be your new little bollocks in the boardroom.
We're going to apply for that job. Yeah.
Moving swiftly forward, I suppose, onto bigger and better things, as I said. Another London derby on Sunday, 4:30, live on Sky Sports, and that will bring down the curtain before the next international break. The last one before the next one is in March, thank God. And Gary, Enzo Maresca, you could say he's kind of steadied the ship. He done a great job at Leicester City last season, getting them promoted. And he's kind of, with about 30 odd players he's having in the squad, he's kind of settling down into the 11 that he knows of. In particular, what I really have liked, the partnership of Cole Palmer and Nicholas Jackson, the way they link up. I suppose, first of all, Gary, like I've asked my away supporters before they come on, why Chelsea, Gary?
I was born into it. Unfortunately, it's as you can tell by the accent. When I first came to Ireland, I sounded like Danny Dyer. So if you can imagine somebody who walked around bobbing their head, you would have seen me as a Chelsea fan immediately and known that. Yeah, born and bred. It's family. It's trickled down to the family for me. So I love the Blues when they were sold for £1. You know, it's always been part and parcel of my life. Unfortunately,
quite a roller coaster as well, as for over the last 20 odd years as well for you. What have you made of Enzo Maresca's start to the season, Gary? Are you pleased with the way things are going? Like it seems a bit of stability there, doesn't it? At long last, you could say.
It does, and I like what he's getting out of players. I'm still not 100% sure on the Cole Palmer positioning, because I'm not sure that he's sitting right. It's supposed to be best when he's running at that number 10, but I felt he was a little bit better more on the right wing. But the fact that he's getting players like Sancho playing well, like even Sanchez playing as well as he's been playing. I know he's for our last match, if he wasn't, we didn't have him in goal, it would have been four or five goals scored against us 100%. But we have a massive, massive squad. And I don't know, as the season goes on, will he be able to keep those players as bright and playing as well as they are now for the whole season? Fingers crossed for me. But I like what he's doing currently, definitely.
What signings have stood out for you, Gertie, over the last few seasons? You know, there's been a lot of money
One
spent.
of them, we don't have 2 hours.
This is
For
not
the
the Eamonn
current
Donnelly
team.
show, by the way.
As I said, they're not signings, it's human trafficking.
Human. Beautifully put, Amy.
It really is.
Yeah, like
Like
there's been a lot of money
we've
thrown out.
dropped it down.
Yeah.
There
Yeah.
is, but there's the players that like at the moment. For me, Casado, he's really coming into his own a bit this season, and I like the fact that I've actually can see Reece James on pitch. He's not Darren Anderton and just being made of glass. In fact, actually, I will say I hope that he plays the next match and that he's fit enough to continue playing the way he's been playing, because it's good to see that back. But Casado has just been unbelievable for me this season.
Yeah, you can say, yeah. And Nicholas Jackson is starting to perform as well, isn't he? He's starting to get a bit of consistency as well, isn't he? And like since that 5-0 defeat at the end of last season against us at the Emirates, I'm sure that's scarred in your brain, that one. It was really when Chelsea were a mess, to be honest. That that game, you were all over the place. I think that was probably the game where it was time for Chelsea to kind of reset, wasn't it? It was a wake up call. This is really getting out of hand now, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it's settled as much as don't forget we've got that 110 million Enzo Fernandez that just can't fit into the team. Yeah. Or he's letting us down. It's like this. We still have a few of those problems, and I'm like the fact we've had to loan out players that have been with the club since they were kids just to get game time and like that ignoring at the beginning, I think scared a lot of the players into actually going, right, well, like we're here, we have to make sure that we're going to continue this way, otherwise we're going to be out in the development squad. We're not going to get to see any games or anything like that. So like I think that they're playing a bit harder because of something like that, even though it wasn't nice as a fan to see like to lose Sterling when he should be, for us, our star man. He should be able to play absolutely stunning next to Cole Palmer. And he knew straight away into the season it wasn't going to fit into the way he wants it to play. So it's good to see Maresca actually like laying down the law and we're following and we seem to be enjoying the football now, which is a massive thing. There was a lot of worried faces when there was 42 players trying to be fit into the 11 squad. And now, because it's settled a bit more, they do seem to be enjoying playing football, which I love seeing,
Yeah, and coming to the match on Sunday as well, there's been cracking games at Stamford Bridge. Last season's 2-2 draw at the Bridge when we came back from 2 down was Declan Rice scored a screamer that day. And then Martin Nally's solo run about 3 or 4 years ago when it was 2-2. I think it was January or February that year. But do you see it being another difficult game, Gertie, on Sunday? I kind of fear. I'm fearing it for ourselves, to be honest. To it, because these games can go either way. Like with Chelsea, it's just goals galore in the game, isn't it? What do you think yourself on Sunday? Where can it be won and lost, I suppose, for yourselves?
Well, I to be honest with you, like our midfield is great and your defense is superb. So I mean, it's going to be hard for at that stage is where I think it's going to be. But I mean, like recently, I believe Arteta's been accused of being a bit Mourinho. I think there was some old bearded Liverpool player said something about that recently. And
do you not know that? Sorry, do you not know that Liverpool fans and Liverpool players, they're the most knowledgeable fans in football ever in the history, and they're the funniest people in the world. I don't listen to them.
Yeah, he said actually last night, a couple of seasons ago, we were playing Guardiola style. Now we're going to the Mourinho style of football. Says a player that never won the Premier League. But anyway, there you go. And for a lad that spat out the window of a moving car, there you go. That's what I think of him. Anyway, Jamie, you're more than welcome to come on anytime. Back to you, Gary.
But like, I mean, if you are playing a Mourinho style, Mourinho won league titles, so
can't argue with
it. It could well be a compliment. Admittedly, like Man United and other things are yet to be discussed. But like I've always respected how Arteta plays. I love the way he's playing his team. I like the teams that attack when and like Mourinho was very much a defensive team but your main defense there is unbelievable. It's just it's going to be the hardest part of watching the match this weekend, because I know it doesn't matter who we put on. That's just going to be a massive battle, and it doesn't matter if we've got Neto playing, Sancho playing. I don't believe that like Palmer's going to have problems there as well. I know it, but if Nicholas Jackson, and if they continue playing the way that they're playing, as fluid as they're playing and as confident as they're playing, it's going to be a real exciting game to watch.
Yeah, I think it's going to be attack. I think there'll be a few goals, and it's definitely. I think the 4:30 games are crackers, aren't they? Being the last game of the weekend as well, it just has something about it, and obviously a North London derby to throw it in the mix. Eamonn, where do you see the game yourself? Being won and lost, it's like it was a great point from Gertie.
Just on a technicality, Chelsea are from West London, and in fact they're actually from Fulham, and when Abramovich was in charge. I used to call them CSKA Fulham.
Yeah.
I miss him.
Before we finish the show, I will tell you how I was nearly a Chelsea fan before I went on the right path, age 5. But we can do that. But I'm looking at Chelsea, and the first thing I'll say, and Gary, we normally speak every week about football, but we just missed each other a few times. I actually was much more impressed with them at Anfield than I was at Old Trafford. Right? I thought at Anfield they were the better team. I thought Caicedo and Lavia ran the midfield that day against a Liverpool midfield that I've said on numerous occasions. I just don't think it's anywhere near as good as the rest of the Liverpool team. Right? And I thought Chelsea were naive that day, that when they got their equaliser, they just switched off for a few minutes, and they allowed that Anfield kind of whatever it is up there and get to them a little bit. But I thought Chelsea were very impressive that day. Against Man United last weekend, I thought both teams were horrendously bad. But again, I thought Caicedo and Lavia in the midfield looked the real deal, and they've kind of found a nice partnership. But Chelsea allowed Man United's disorganised chaos to dictate how the game went, and I wasn't impressed. Nicholas Jackson didn't get a kick of the ball. Cole Palmer, apart from a couple of beautiful touches and an assault. When I look at the red cards that we've picked up this season, and I see that Tug, what's his name, Martinez, is it?
That tackle he made on Palmer.
It's shocking. It was really not getting by me. Take a bit of that. It was shocking. Hang on,
Eamonn, very briefly. If that was one of the Arsenal players, I guarantee you, it would have been a straight red card, no doubt about it.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. So annoying.
But the point that when you see what we've picked up red cards for, but sure, look, we know the deal there. But the point I'm making is Chelsea to me is all about Caicedo and Lavia in the middle of the park. I think they're very, very good. I think they're the most dynamic duo in the division at the moment in that area.
They are very solid, aren't they? Yeah.
That's number one. Number two, you referenced it yourself. The Palmer Jackson axis is very, very, very good. I hear people saying Palmer should be in the England team ahead of Saka. I don't buy that. I think Saka is on a different level to pretty much everybody but about 2 or 3 in the world.
Yeah, it's very good.
Then we get to our friend Cucurella, who can either be like Roberto Carlos or Krusty the Clown. It depends, So I'm hoping that the Krusty the Clown version turns up, because I referenced that game 5-0. I was at that game, Jonathan, and to get to where Chelsea are now, from where they were that night, nothing short of phenomenal.
Yeah,
they were an absolute mess that night. It was like a sitcom. We could have beaten them by 12.
Yeah, they were really poor.
Absolute mess.
Yeah.
I'm not altogether convinced by their goalkeeper, by the way, Gary, and I'm not convinced by the defence. But I'll tell you one thing. Here's what Chelsea will do, and they have to do this because of the youth in the team. and look at, and they need to be forward thinking. They'll come out and play. They'll come out and try and put Arsenal under pressure. There'll be none of this doubling up on Saka and doubling up on Martinelli and trying to defend their own goal at home. And when you talk about that gobshite Carragher, who spits at people, who spits at women, by the way, out of car windows. When you talk about him, talking about Mourinho, the bit that he's referencing is in a away game against Man City, when one of our most creative players, Trossard, was sent off for kicking the ball while he was still moving, and we 10 men away, and we decided to defend by parking the bus. Well, sweet Jesus, what other choice did we have? And all of a sudden then, Arteta has become a Jose Mourinho coach. You just stop the lights.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, but again, who does he work for? And I referenced this earlier on in the show about Sky Sports and the type of journalism you get there.
Yeah.
It has to be sensationalist. It has to make a headline. Yeah. Jamie Carragher says, I don't give a shit what Jamie Carragher says.
Yeah.
Actually,
I've noticed, Eamonn, it's always digs at Arsenal with Carragher. Always, it's always.
Well, maybe that's because he's still picking himself up off his arse when Thierry Henry left him on it.
Are you listening, Jamie?
Are you listening, Jamie? And by the way, come to fingers, pal, and spit out the window at us and see how you get on. Right? Because, first of all, it'd probably be a Rob car you spit out. We'll take it from there. And one thing is true and true. Anyway, I think, look, it's a very hard game. It's a very hard game to call. It's funny, though. My dislike at Chelsea, I'll talk about it, and that's no affront to Gary, who's, we've been spoken about this. My dislike at Chelsea is rooted in about 3 different things in life. But funnily enough, in London, we go on about the Arsenal-Tottenham game and the derby, but the Tottenham-Chelsea game is the most bitter I have ever come across. And that's Celtic Rangers, Everton-Liverpool, Tottenham-Arsenal. The Tottenham-Chelsea game has London spite in it like I've never seen before. Would you agree with that?
You never went to it. A Chelsea-Millwall game would have been something that many, like back in the 80s now, would have been the game that I felt the most aggression at from both sides going at it. But like, considering where Millwall are, we never play them anymore. So, it is Spurs and Liverpool who are our mainstays now that we want to just absolutely, like, everybody's seen the interviews with Eden Hazard and how he feels about Spurs. He absolutely hates them. He puts them down as much as possible. Whenever asked whether he would have considered playing for them, the look of disgust on his face really goes to show what that London derby always meant to him. So for me, like Spurs is much more than West Ham, than Arsenal, than any of the many other teams that there are based out of London. Fulham can be a little bit like that sometimes when we play against Fulham.
Jesus, Gary, when you go away to Fulham, you get a sushi bar on the way in.
Yeah.
The other ground is the border. You get Asian free food.
But there was a bit of a time where that was a bit more of a battle. And again, when we were stealing all of West Ham's players, there was also that derby that was a little bit. But now it's sat at Spurs, especially considering Mourinho went there as well. Like, we just absolutely hate him.
And this is not just an anti-Tottenham job. I mean, I spend a lot of my life in London, and I can tell you, every London club just hates Tottenham because they see Tottenham as a team that goes on about 1961 and attacking football tradition, never shuts up about it, and has this kind of superiority complex that they haven't really delivered on a lot, But I just go back to that story, Jonathan. See, the first game I ever remember being on television, not that I watched it, was the 1970 FA Cup final between Leeds and Chelsea. I played in that game there. Chopper Harris there. He broke his own 2 legs before he went down on the pitch there. So I remember that being on, and I can remember some of the older boys were all Chelsea fans. And at that time, when you read back in it, Chelsea was the kind of King's Road, dedicated follower of fashion club. But in the 1980s, Gary, and I'm not going political, it wasn't good. There was a lot of racial tensions. In fact, one of your own players, I can't remember whether I think it was Paul Cannaville, was it? He actually wrote a book about being a black player at Chelsea during that time.
I read that actually, Eamonn.
Yeah, and
it was horrendous what he went through. Yeah.
But so, and I'm delighted that you can actually go to Chelsea. And I have been. Elvis Costello, by the way, he didn't want to go to Chelsea. I don't want to go to Chelsea. But anyway, great song. But no, I'm delighted. It's much better. It's much better that you can go there, and those days are gone. But how dare you, with that kind of history, use Liquidator as your intro tune? Come on, mate. You can leave the Jamaican stuff to the Arsenal, mate. Yeah, leave it to us. Yeah. But anyway, and then latterly, just to finish off, Jonathan, and I say this, and it gives me no great pleasure. The way football has gone at the moment, and we're talking about how some Premier League games could end up being played in Saudi. That day isn't far away, folks. Look at the American football. I'm telling you, right? And all of that type of stuff. And the catalyst for all of that was Roman Abramovich. He was the catalyst for...
I can't see it ever happening, Eamonn, being honest with
you. Well, worse fool you, Jonathan, because I'll tell you why.
Because I know Michael Oliver will be refereeing Chelsea Arsenal and Riyadh.
If you look at where football was when Abramovich started, and look where it is now, are you seriously telling me?
I think there'd be too much uproar, Eamonn, with football fans would win out in that one. They wouldn't. There'd be no.
By doing what?
Protests, Eamonn. Look at the Super League, the way it was quashed.
Yeah, but that was only round one. I'm just simply saying, I'm not saying the league will move to, but I'm saying a bit like the American football, where the Bears are playing the Vikings and they have to play 2 of their games away and blah, blah. I'm telling you, that is the way football is going. And the catalyst for that was none other than Roman Abramovich, who, as Wenger said at the time, and he got laughed out of it by the aforementioned dickhead that is Mourinho, Wenger said, that's financial doping, right? That is financial doping. And for that reason, Chelsea leave me cold. And I don't hate Chelsea, but they leave me cold for that reason. But I have to say, and I'll be trying to be fair and balanced, and Gary knows this, we've had many a cup of tea over this. The way they're playing at the moment, they're actually a good watch.
They're a good watch under Maresca, yeah.
They're very good. They're a very good watch, and they're young and they're vibrant and they're exciting. And I didn't mind over the last few weeks saying, do you know what? Liverpool are playing Chelsea. I'm going to settle down, have a can of beer, and watch that game. I thought they were a good watch.
Yeah. Well said, Eamonn. Can I get your score prediction, Gertie? I'm going with 2-2 myself.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I was literally going to say, I reckon it's going to be 2-2. At a push, it might end up being 3-2, and it could be either way. It really could be either way with that. It just really depends on the day. It really does. But I think it's going to be a draw, 2-2.
Yeah, I think it's going to be similar to last year's game at the Bridge. Yeah. Eamonn, your score?
6-0 Chelsea.
Oh, shit.
What are you laughing at?
I can see a red card in that game for ourselves.
Well, you see, it's funny you should mention that. Yeah. I was in the away end when we got a red card in the first minute, and we lost 6-0 there.
Yeah.
That was pretty painful. But no, I'm not playing this game anymore of predictions because I am a Jonah.
Hand on heart to really think realistically.
I think again, it goes back to what I said on the review show. We've been patching up the team like a puncture kit, And if we're patching up the team, I think Chelsea could honestly beat us. Right?
Yeah, I am dreading that game.
Well, hold on. If we're not patching up the team, if you would ask me that question
2 or 3 weeks ago,
a few weeks ago, when we had our full complement, I would have said, this is going to be a bit early for Chelsea. It's going to be men against boys.
Yeah.
And if you looked at, Gary, you'd even agree with this now. At the start of the season when you played Man City, that's exactly what it was. It was men against boys. And we were at the level of Man City. But that's not the state of the team. So I'm going to plump for I think actually in my life, the amount of 2-2 draws between Chelsea and Arsenal has been, I could rattle off about 12 of them offhand, you know.
Yeah,
So
I think it's going to be 2-2, just briefly.
I think if you had Odegaard back, sorry, I was just going to say, if you had Odegaard back, I think it'd be a completely different match. I really do.
100%, be a different midfield battle, 100%, yeah, you could, we've just party and rice on Sunday, hopefully. Just to finish the show off, lads, it's been a good show. We've got a lot in there. Gertie, your favourite goal from this match through the years? What one has stood out for you? Silvino for me in around 99-2000, man. That bending shot pass. I think it was Cudicini at the time. I think it was in goal. That stood out. Yeah.
Give me a second on that one. Let's see what Eamonn comes up with. And I'm going to have a little think on what my favourite Chelsea. Because there's been a couple of goals that I've really, really enjoyed. I'm going back to. I think I'm just trying to remember the one that Zola, I think, scored against you. Jesus, wow. Yeah. From the last few matches, there hasn't been anything impressive. I can say that with hand on my heart. I can't think from the last probably 10 matches that we've played against Jews that like anything that we've done has been impressive. It has been quite dire, and that's why I'm hoping for Cole to pull something out of the bag.
To be honest,
Joe Cole actually scored against you as well. I believe there was a Joe Cole goal, if I remember rightly. I was actually at the match there.
Michael Essien goal against Lehmann. Do you remember that screamer? Oh, jeez. That was just incredible. Eamonn?
Yeah, no, I think that's it.
My own favourite was, it was a great day when Chelsea were winning leagues and we were struggling to keep top four, and we beat them 5-3 at the Bridge.
Oh yeah, what a cracker!
Even Santos scored, and he Santos was the sole reason why widescreen TV was invented. But there was one bit, and one of the co-commentators was talking about Theo, and that Theo Walcott has done absolutely nothing in this game.
Yeah, I remember this.
As he dribbled into trouble, fell over, the ball squirted loose. He kind of went off and did a kind of a roll and got up and realised that, by the way, there's no defenders here anymore. And he buried it. It was hilarious. That's my favourite goal. Do you remember that? Theo went right into trouble, tripped over his own bootlegs, just rolled over, got up and realised that John Terry was still standing where he had been.
There was actually one, I think Chelsea batted 2-0 briefly. Hazard done a mazy run, left Koscielny on his arse. And you remember that game again? But I think it was Czech was in goal for ourselves that day.
That was the time Bellerin got assaulted in the box in the first few minutes. And instead of being a yellow card, they awarded a goal.
I tell you one thing, it's going to be a tasty London derby. It always is, and I think a 2-2 draw is probably a fair shout in this, but as usual, we could be a drone and everything goes arse up. Hopefully not a red card after the frozen 10 minutes. That's all good. Michael Oliver is probably known to be the ref, I suppose. No, it's been great to have you on, Gary Hearn, Chelsea fan. Thanks for taking our time out, Rob. Been really good having you on, and it's great to hear your thoughts on the match, and very best of luck for Chelsea for the rest of the season, except for Sunday. We hope to have you back on the return game in March, which is around Paddy's weekend. So it'd be great to have you back. And also, I'd like to thank Eamon Donnelly, as always, our number one Arsenal fan. Thanks for coming on, pal.
Cheers, guys. Thank you.
As always, you can catch our show on the Dublin Arsenal YouTube channel and on Spotify, and donate to Martin Stoneville's Movember, a great cause for men's mental health. So until then, thanks for listening. Like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you again. Thank you, lads.
Cheers, guys.